The Jason Rantz Show.
Here to react, Seattle Talk Radio host Jason Rantz.
And the rise of soft on crime laws and policies have made it worse.
Our man in the Pacific Northwest, Jason Rantz, is on that.
And you keep on bringing her these extraordinary stories from Seattle. It's amazing.
Long form.
Well, Semi Bird wants to be governor of Washington State. He also wanted to be a Richland school board member. But in this last election, unfortunately, he found himself on the raw end of a recall. And he joins me now. Semi, welcome back to the show.
Good to be with you, Jason. Thank you for having me.
So, big picture controversy with you and two others. During COVID, the lockdowns and the forced mask wearing, you basically said as a school board member, yeah, no, we're not going to do this. It's not based in the science. Kids are healthy. They're not impacted by COVID in a significant way. So you purposefully violated the state mandate. Superintendent says, okay, well, then I'm going to close schools until you reverse course, hence the recall. Is that generally speaking what happened?
Very close. Actually, maybe half close. So what actually happened was this. We stood up for children and for families, for parents. Children were dying, Jason. We had the highest suicide rate in the state. We had lost learning. We had a mental illness crisis among our youth. And when you look in the face of parents, and I'm going to say Ted Robbins, God bless him and his family, who lost their son to suicide in our school district, right? Something had to be done. No one was doing anything. No one. So we took action to save students' lives. When you are losing children, someone has to stand up. I'm not ashamed of that. So, yes, we went to recall. And the teachers union and all the special interest groups, they came together. They poured tens of thousands of dollars into commercials. They had the Tri-City Herald with them, and they put forth a full campaign during a primary election, knowing that there would be low voter turnout, and they were successful. But I wear it like a badge of honor because someone actually stood up, honored and respected parents' rights, children's welfare, and the Constitution of Washington State and the United States of America.
You're obviously running for governor, and that took time away from you being on the ground and fighting this recall. Do you think if you were fighting the recall full time, it would have been a little bit different, or would you not have been able to overcome the amount of dollars and special interests that were involved?
Not at all. We rallied as best we could. So we had the full support of parents. Those parents that were affected, those parents whose children who were suffering, that were suicidal, that were on suicide watch, those parents who had special needs children who could no longer attend school because the masks were prohibitive for them to attend school, they were with us. And everybody who could give, gave. I used my time wisely, and unlike some career politicians, I know how to multitask. So, no, we did all we could. But, Jason, think about that. When you have the power and the money of special interest groups, when you have the local newspaper every week taking the side of a skewed left, what do? Well, you do the best you can, and you get out of the sidewalks, you get out in the corners, and you do the best to bring attention. But when people are out of town or on vacation and they're misprioritizing, I can promise you this, there's a lot of remorse today, and there's a lot of scared parents right now thinking about going into a new school year with what's happening. But what also happens was a lot of exposed corruption within our school district, on our school board. A lot of discovery came out of this. People are waking up. This was just round one. I'm not done. Parents aren't done. And I promise you, we're not the only school district that's going to be fighting back against this.
I have to assume that you also probably realize that whatever was done in this recall race is going to be done to you as a candidate. If you go into the general, they're going to pull exactly the same kind of thing. You're going to be fighting with against a whole lot of special interest dollars and unions and dark money. It's clearly going to be a dirty race. So if you were not able to overcome that on a more local level in Richland, why do you think it would be different statewide? And what's the plan to push back and not allow the bias in the media or special interest money to defeat you?
You know, that's interesting. Todd Myers from the Washington State Policy Center was the first to throw that attack at me. right at the time of
It's
the
not an
recall
attack.
about to go
It's
through.
it's a reasonable position.
Okay, well, let's talk about reasonable. Reasonable is using real statistics and real comparisons. So I know research and statistics because I actually have the experience to do it. When you're talking a national election and a down ballot during a general election, right, it's a lot different than an off year. I think you know that because you've been in the business a little while. Okay, that's one thing. You're talking about a small town during a primary on an off year where people are on vacation and not paying attention for a school board. So if you think that the school board is a total equivocation or similarity to a governor's race, a statewide race, or a presidential election, well, then my perceptions are a little skewed of what I thought that you were aware of.
Well, it's not that the race is the same. It's not that the race is the same. It's the fact of the matter, the same strategy is going to be used. You're going to be outspent. You know, whoever the governor, the general candidate is on the Republican side, they're going to be outspent. And we all know that the media here is not going to be hospitable in the least. They're not going to be fair. They're going to be antagonistic the entire time. That's not easy to overcome.
Oh, no, it's not. But you overcome it by rallying the people. So talking about in a small town or in a mid-sized town during a school board race where most people do not pay attention to what's happening in their local elections for school board, I think you know it, I know it, and many other citizens in Washington state realize this. The governor's race is a completely different situation. People know it, they're aware, they're motivated, they're inspired because they see what this administration has done. They've taken away their constitutional rights, their Second Amendment rights. They're coming after their children, for goodness sakes. They see what is at risk. So they have skin in the game. And we are going into all communities, across all demographics. People are ready to stand up. This is a huge difference.
Well, the circumstances this time around are certainly different. It's undoubtedly true that Donald Trump on the ballot in Washington did not benefit Republicans. All the data points to that. And it wasn't even so much that Republicans weren't getting out the vote, but he was inspiring Democrats and progressives and all of those folks to get out. Given the different circumstances in the situation that he's dealing with, indictments that are very clearly a result of the weaponization of the Department of Justice, do you think you benefit or any Republican benefits from him as the nominee?
Won't affect me. And I'll tell you exactly why. Because my whole assertion is this. It's time to start putting people over politics. And yes, I declare that I'm a Republican and a proud Republican. A Republican of abolition, a Republican of Reconstruction, women's rights, civil rights, parents' rights. That's my brand of Republican. So that has nothing to do with the national election, but everything to do with what people are dealing with every day in Washington state. And this is why we are connecting for the first time as a Republican with black and brown citizens, Christians, Muslims, Sikhs, Jews, all denominations. We are reaching out to everyone who has been affected by this mismanagement of Washington state. And everybody, my friend, has skin in the game. Everybody is ready for change. And because we're not attaching ourselves to the old personas and the misperceptions and getting caught up in the noise, we're taking our discussion to the people. And the people are going to answer back. And we talked about it the last time we were together. I have been approached by so many name brand politicians and big money donors asking me to step out and to step aside. And I told them the same thing. I don't quit. I don't give up. And I represent the people. The people are ready for someone who is not a career politician, for someone who's a career American, who knows what it's like to struggle, who started off without civil rights and found the American dream. I'm going to share that with everyone. We, the people, are ready for real representation, strong representation, and finally, servant leadership in Olympia.
Do you trust the system?
That's a broad question.
It is the election, specifically the election, because this is also one of those issues that I feel like it's hurting Republicans when folks, cast doubt as to whether or not their ballots will be counted. And obviously there are real easy ways to ensure that, at least with your own ballot, it gets counted. Yeah. It gets delivered. Yeah. It's actually there. And if it's not, if it gets lost, there's something you can do about it before it's too late. But just generally speaking, how are you going to tackle that concern from some Republican voters?
Yeah, Jason, great question, and thank you for that. First and foremost, I stand for election integrity, and election integrity is not a Republican initiative. This is a citizen.
Shouldn't be. It should be everyone's.
Right. It should be everyone. Absolutely. It's a constitutional right for free, fair, and elections with integrity. And so we have laws that support ballot collection. And so I'm smart enough to include that in my strategy. So we are going to make sure we are going to the voters, that we know how to collect those ballots. We know how to inspire voters to get out there, get engaged, vote early. We are not going to put out the word to say, don't trust your election system. Be scared. Be skeptical. That does no good to help anybody. We need to bring solutions. And the first solution is to get a governor in office who actually supports election integrity, who is not afraid of a forensic audit, who is not afraid of bringing transparent and opening the doors for anybody to see how our systems are run, and who's not afraid to relook at in-person voting if necessary in the future. So, no, we're not going to scare anybody away. We are going to attract people, get them more engaged. We are going to bring people either to the ballot boxes or bring the boxes to them. So we're going to be actively engaging and collecting those ballots statewide.
I hope people pay attention to that answer. I hope people listen to that. Vote early. It's okay. The system is in place where we have checks and balances. And if anything does happen, it at least gives you some time to correct it. We've been talking with Semi Bird. He's running for governor. Birdforgovernor.com. It's all spelled out. Birdforgovernor.com. Semi, thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. Take care and God bless.
Thank you so much. The quick hits after this.